Hi, everybody. Diana here at So Uncommon. Welcome to our countdown day two for the quilt along because tomorrow's the day. Tomorrow's day one. Tomorrow is the day it starts. And I wanted to talk to you all today, just real quickly, about something that really has nothing to do with the quilting, but something I find that my quilting friends and I like to chat about sometimes when we get together. And that is, what keeps you company when you're doing your quilting? Now, if you're doing your quilting out in a family room or something, you might have other people around you and you have to listen to the football game, which you might enjoy. Or you are, listening to, cartoons with the kids, whatever. Okay. But if you have a space or a space that you can be all to yourself, what keeps you company? So what I'm talking about is there is a woman who is the owner of a company, and I won't say names, but she loves to listen to true crime. Now, I don't know if she listens to book on tape or podcast or whatever, but that's her thing. Okay. So what's your thing? Do you like listening to books on tape, podcasts? Do you like to stream a film that you can listen to and just check and look when you want to? Or if you need to take a rest and you just sit and watch it for 5 minutes? Or do you like to listen to music? I was designing a quilt during the pandemic when we were all kind of in lockdown, and I listened to Wagner's Die Valkyrie the whole way through that opera. I love it. I've seen the opera, the whole ring cycle of operas several times with my husband, and I love it. And that opera, Die Valkyrie, just made me feel so empowered when I was doing the designing and testing of it. It was like the perfect thing for me. But I will tell you that a lot of times I like to put on some good old-fashioned rock and roll and listen to that. Sometimes I like to listen to classical. Sometimes I'm not a huge country fan, although there are some country singers that I've liked over time. But there's not a lot of genres of music that I wouldn't play. So sometimes I just put on our local radio because the DJs crack me up. But what do you do? Okay, so I know I love audiobooks. I love them. I loved, even if it's the same book, typically the books I like on audio are ones I've already read because I like to hear somebody else reading my favorite books out loud to me. So there's one author, Mary Kay Andrews. She is from Georgia, I believe, or Carolinas, but she writes about Savannah. Her characters are in Savannah quite frequently, but she writes a series about two friends, Wheezy and Bebe, and I love them. They're hilarious. They're kind of mystery, not mystery. I don't know what you would really call them. Her books are always what you would categorize as a good beach read. Take it to the beach, you're just reading it, you kind of get lost in it. And I love it. So I love her books. So I love listening to them as long as I've read it first. I don't know, weird. You might say, I ain't reading these books. I just want to listen to them. That's cool too. So I like doing audiobooks. I like doing, sorry, I got something in my eye. I like doing films. Now you're going to think this is weird. When I'm quilting, I go for two types of films, either a really good sci-fi, like really good classic sci-fi, or Star Trek or Star Wars. Those are all my jam, as they would say. Or I like watching a really good Hallmark Christmas movie. They're light. They're kind of fun. You kind of know where the story is going, so there's not a lot of big surprises. But the thing that I like about the Hallmark films, the Christmas films especially, is not really the storyline, because they're pretty formulaic, but they've got some really good actors. But what I love is the scenery, the sets that get built, because everything seems kind of fantasy-esque, especially in the Christmas ones. The trees are bigger and the colors are brighter, and there's more candy canes, not fewer. There's more poinsettias, not, that kind of thing. I love that. So that's kind of where I go when I go to just watch a film, or to have a film playing while I'm working. Or now podcasts. I will tell you, I'm very late to the podcast wagon. I've not really gotten on there. There's one podcast I listen to, and it's just because I like to know a little bit about what different laws mean, so that, like, if I hear something on the news or whatever, I don't ever take anybody's word for what they're telling me in regard to that. Those are the kind of things I like to go read about them and study them for myself a little bit. I've just always been that way about stuff. I think it's a good habit to have, is to get the knowledge and think about it on your own for a while. But there's a podcast called #SistersInLaw. Get it? Sisters in Law, the law. So that's the only podcast. And I've just recently started listening to that when I have a time. Like if I'm making a salad, I'll play it while I'm listening a little bit. So it takes me sometimes like 2 weeks to get through one episode, but that's okay. So that's really the only podcast I like. But it is by 3 women who are all attorneys at different levels. Or at different stages. One of the women was the only female prosecutor in the Watergate case. And since I remember Watergate very well, I find her very interesting, and I find her to be really very knowledgeable. And 2 other women as well, who are attorneys. One is also a journalist. So that's the only podcast I listen to. So I can't recommend a lot of podcasts for you. Books on tape, again, something that I also like a really good science fiction. Many years ago. We won't go into that story. I just love books on tape. And if they're sci-fi, or if they're like a beach read, I even like listening to, because I still do research for my past career, I even like listening to nonfiction on tape. Now, the problem with that is I usually have to go back and re-listen because I have to take notes. But books on tape are great. So I wanted to give you some ideas of where you can find some of these things. These are just where I find them. You might know other places, other services and stuff where you can get them. Now, books on tape, if you already own your own books on tape and you have a tape recorder, cool. All of mine that I used to have actually on tape, I listen to now through audible.com. I got into Audible during the COVID lockdown. Best thing I ever did. Tons and tons of books, every subject imaginable. You can get a membership where you pay for a certain amount of credits for a year. If you run out of those credits, you can always buy more credits at a discounted price. And they have a whole bunch of free ones too that you don't need credits for at all. But Audible, I love. So that's my favorite there. Podcasts. I think Audible might have some podcasts. I know Spotify does. I don't listen to Spotify, so I don't know anything about it, but I know that I keep hearing in advertisements, where you get your podcasts, like Spotify. And I think like Apple has a podcast service too. Probably everybody does. Like I said, I really don't know too much about podcasts. I listen to that one podcast through my Amazon service, through my my Echo Dot, my the assistant, who I won't say her name because my thing will go off and I don't want it to do that. But I listen to that one through there. I also listen to my music through Amazon Music. Dave and I are really love, our home is always full of music. And so we both enjoy that one quite a bit. We can set up playlists on it that are his, that are mine, that are ours. We always set up a really big, long playlist for our annual Christmas party. We always set up one to play for each night of Hanukkah, because we also observe Hanukkah in our home. And so it's great. Amazon Music is a great service. Now, if you are a big Disney fan, you probably already know this. Disney Plus, way to go. I'm not the Disney person who wants to go to the theme. I've never been to a Disney theme park. My husband has, because my aunt and uncle and cousins took him years ago. When I couldn't be with him, they took him to Disneyland. I've never been to Disney. My whole family, I'm probably the only one that's never been. I've just never had the opportunity. And I just don't have a huge desire to go to a theme park. But the older Disney films, like I'm talking the original Snow White and Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, 3 of my all-time favorite films. And I love the movies that came out through Pixar. They're very good. And some of the newer Disney ones are great too. And they had a great show on during COVID about the New York City Ballet, well, the School of American Ballet, which I'm associated with a little bit. They did one about their Nutcracker performance, which is always done by the children in the American School of Ballet. They are part of that, along with some primary dancers. So they have some pretty good documentary things on Disney as well. So that's a great one. And if you do Disney, you can also get a subscription to Hulu through that as well. The one thing that messes me up is there are so many streaming services, and I'm like, please, could we not just put them all on one? But Hulu, there's been a few things Dave and I have watched on Hulu. When Hulu first came out, I was never into it until I realized that all the old sci-fi stuff and all from the 60s could be found on Hulu. And so I loved those old shows, Land of the Giants, stuff like that. So I did Hulu then. And then for years, we did not do Hulu. Then we got Disney for kids and stuff. And it came with Hulu. So now we've watched some pretty decent shows on Hulu more recently. We're not huge TV watchers, Dave and I, but over COVID, what else was there really to do? So at night we would watch 3 or 4 episodes of something. We had a lot of TV watching done. We got caught up. So there's that. And then probably my all-time favorite is Prime Video through Amazon as well. Because there's so much. And there are other channels that you can subscribe to through Prime Video. There's one called PureFlix. It is kind of like a Hallmark, Great American Family, that kind of channel. And they have some of the same actors do films for that channel that do them for GAC and Hallmark and those. And they have some great actors there. So they have some great, I just found that recently, there's some good Christmas films on there. Some of those light-hearted Christmas films on there. You know, I never read romance, but for some reason, the Hallmark movies I think they're fun. So, now you know more about me than you ever knew about what I like in entertainment, right? Sci-fi or Hallmark. I know my husband thinks I'm nuts, but anyway. So that's what I wanted to talk about today for Countdown Day 2. Have something ready to listen to while you're sewing, because we know, scientifically, that if we're listening to music or something that is just like a story being told, that kind of thing, we know that relaxes us. And when we quilt in peace, we want to always remain relaxed through our shoulders, through our forearms, that kind of thing, so that we don't get all tightened up and then we're sore the next day or our neck gets all crinked up. We don't want that. So having something playing is really actually good for you while you're doing your quilting. It will actually help you concentrate on the quilting more. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I thought so too. So while you're doing that, I also want to remind you that while you're doing the piecing and although you're doing those segments and all on your embroidery machine, there's still a lot of, oh, hang on. Honest to goodness. I thought I turned everything down. Sorry. Even though you're doing it on your embroidery machine, there's still going to be a lot of arm movement. Shoulders can get hunched up a little. Make sure you're in a good chair, right? Something where you can sit and you're well supported. And for your hands, every block or two, just stop. Do some wrist exercises, do some finger exercises, that kind of thing. Keep everything loosened up. Roll your shoulders 10 times back, 10 times forward. Do the same thing with your neck. Keep all of this area nice and loose. And have a bottle of water with you, specifically water. Water's really good. It'll really nourish your body and it'll keep you actually more alert than coffee. Believe that. That's true. And have a good cup of coffee or tea or hot chocolate, whatever you like, whatever other bevy you like to have when you're sewing. If you're sewing late, if I am quilting late at night, I always have coffee. Coffee doesn't keep me awake at night. And so I like to drink it while I am working. Because I stay well caffeinated. But I drink at least 6, if not 8 of these a day. I stay really hydrated. If you ever start doing that, it's going to take you a good 6 to 8 weeks for your body to get used to that much fluid. So just get ready to visit the restroom frequently for about 6 or 8 weeks. Stick with it. Then that kind of goes away because your body adjusts to it. So I'm actually part of a cancer study where drinking this type of bottled water, there's several brands, but they have to be approved, where I have to drink this water. I'm not allowed to drink tap water. And I have to drink a certain amount. So 6 or 8 of these a day. So getting used to that was interesting. Okay. Again, more than you need to know. But that's the kind of thing I wanted to talk about today. We've got our fabric ready. We've got our patterns ready. Have you loaded your patterns onto your USB stick or transferred them via Bluetooth or however you do that onto your machine? Are they ready? Your fabric's picked out. You cut your fabric. If you haven't started cutting your fabric, do it today. At least do block 1 today. So when the video pops up tomorrow, you're ready to start stitching tomorrow. So at least do block 1 today if you haven't started. So fabric patterns, your information sheets. There will be some other things you'll know in tomorrow's video. And have your space already. Get everything cleaned out. Get your pressing area ready. Get yourself some bobbins ready. Now, when I piece on the machine, I use preloaded bobbins, regular bobbins. If you're using cotton thread and that's all you want to use, make sure that you've got at least a dozen loaded bobbins. Okay, a dozen's going to take you through a good deal of the quilt along. And then that way you're not having to stop and load bobbins. The bane of my existence, having to load bobbins. When I was a kid and sewed on the old Singer machine where you pop the little bobbin on, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I loved to sit and wind bobbins. Not anymore. I'm over that now. But have at least a dozen bobbins ready. Have your thread ready. A full spool of thread to start, or something at least half full. If you're already down to the last little dregs, set that aside. Start with a new spool of thread. So those things aren't taking up your time while you're actually doing your stitching and all. Okay, that's kind of, oh, and then the last thing you might want to have ready are snacks. Now, snacks can be anything. You could be a chocoholic. Okay. I have a little allergy to chocolate, so I have to be really careful of it. So that's not usually my snack of choice. My snack of choice, potato chips. I know they're horrible. So I get the baked ones and I get the little bag. So it's like one serving. I said there, nuts, seeds, fruit. I always have some grapes or some blueberries when I'm stitching at night. If I'm like into a big long session, those are great snacks. Berries, bananas, cookies. You could always do cookies, crackers, anything like that. Whatever you like for your snack is perfectly fine. Popcorn. I love popcorn. So anything like that. Okay. Just make sure you've got everything ready. And then the last thing you want to do is make yourself a little sign. Just get yourself a little piece of paper that you would run through the copier and put do not disturb on it, and either put it on the back of your chair if you're out with everybody else, put it on the door to your room, wherever people can see it, because that's your time to do your quilting. Okay, are you ready, everybody? So excited to bring this with you tomorrow, starting tomorrow. And we're going to be making, I think, a very pretty, basic but very pretty quilt from our free blocks of the month. Remember, if you're just getting started, the free info sheets and patterns can be found at our website, sewuncommon.com. And we want to ask you all to subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you as part of the Sew Uncommon family. So hit the little subscribe button, click the little bell to set your notifications so that you know when I send out information. Also, subscribe over at our website as well, because when I send email out, that's the only way you're going to get email from me is if you've subscribed at the website. So let me pop that up again. If you subscribe, when you go on there down at the bottom, there's a little button. You can click it and subscribe. If you do that, then when I send out emails and stuff, you'll get them. And that's the only way you'll get email regarding anything I put out for the quilt along is if you've subscribed there, because I can't track everybody's stuff here on YouTube like that. I track it through and I don't sell your stuff, nothing like that. Okay. All right, everybody. Tomorrow's the big day. Are you ready? We're going to quilt, and guess what we're going to do? We're going to sew life beautiful. See you all tomorrow. Bye for now.